One of my favourite things about this time of year is walking the streets at twilight. I've done it a few times this week, around the time where the Christmas lights begin to go on. I love Christmas lights. Let me just say that again a little bit differently. I love other people's Christmas lights. I'm not so great at Christmas lights. I'm not good at putting them up, and I'm particularly bad at taking them down. This year, I had an afternoon where there was a knock on the door, and I went to answer the door, and there in our front yard was one of the most beautiful families I'd seen, all dressed in their finest. They were all wearing saris and their best clothes, and they were beaming, the family of Indian descent. And I opened the door and their smiles faded and they looked at me with horror. And they said, "Oh, we're very sorry. We thought you were an Indian family because of your Diwali lights." Diwali is in October, 21st of October. Our lights from last year's Christmas went down the next week. This year, they will come down by February or March, maybe. I love Christmas lights. I love the way that they create pockets of warmth and light in the dark surrounds. They have a way of making you slow down and taking a moment and reflecting. They're beautiful. They stand out against the darkness. But Christmas lights are just decorations, and they can only go so far in pushing back the darkness in our world. I don't know if you've felt it over the last few weeks, but our world can be a pretty dark place at times. Some of the things that we've seen in the last week or two have made me think, wow, the darkness is creeping in. As Jewish people celebrated the Festival of Lights, it crept in among them. And of course, this is just one example of darkness in our world. Any day this year, you could have opened a newspaper and seen plenty of examples of darkness, hatred, stories of violence, stories of oppression, stories of corruption. Our world needs light. And darkness has a way of creeping in not only on a global level, not only on a national level, but it has this way of creeping into all of our lives at different times in our lives, whether it be through illness or when death visits you or your family, whether it be through the loss of a relationship, a job, or a dream, or many other things. Darkness creeps into all of our lives at one time or another. Our world needs light, but we need light also. We've had a number of readings tonight and we've sung a number of songs, and almost all of them have mentioned light in one way or another. Our first reading early on tonight, as the candles were being lit, came from Isaiah chapter 9, and this is written in the 8th century before Jesus was born, about him. And it was written, or it was given in a prophecy by Isaiah to a people who were living in a dark time in their history. And it speaks of people walking in darkness and living in a land of deep darkness. Into this darkness, Isaiah says that there will be a great light to come. And that great light comes in the form of a child, which will bring a dawning of light that will bring peace and joy and justice into that darkness. The second reading that we had tonight came from John, which is a strange book to read a Christmas reading from because there's no Christmas in John. There's no Mary or Joseph, there's no angels singing, there's no wise men or shepherds. Instead, we get this beautiful piece of poetry, poetic language that we had read to us earlier tonight. In the beginning was the Word. And we find a few verses later that the Word is Jesus. And the Word, Jesus, was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning, and through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. This is love. This is what we've been talking about the last few weeks. John begins his gospel not with a manger, but by making a bold cosmic claim that in Jesus was life, and that life that he brought was the light of all humanity. John describes Jesus' entry into the world as light shining in darkness, just in the same way that the prophecy in Isaiah predicted a dawning of great light into deep darkness. John says the light shines in the darkness. It's interesting to look at that verse in the original language, the Greek that John would have written it in. And when you dig into it, you actually see that John says the word shines in the present tense. We lose it in the English. John didn't say that this light shined at some point in the past. He didn't say that this light would shine one day in the future. He said the light is shining. And it's not just a one-time shining. It's always shined, and it always will shine. It's a light that refuses to quit. And John also says one more thing about this light, the light that Jesus brings. He says, the darkness will not overcome it. What an incredible statement. The word overcome there is another fascinating word, and I wish I had half an hour to talk to you about it today, but I don't. But in the language there's this word overcome that can be translated a number of ways, and we see it in the NIV. It's the darkness has not overcome it. The New Living Translation says the darkness can never extinguish it. The NRSV says the darkness did not overtake it. The NET says the darkness has not mastered it. The NASB says the darkness did not grasp it. And the King James Version says the darkness cannot comprehend it. Darkness has no power over the light that comes in Jesus. Yes, we live in a world where there is darkness. And there are times where it feels like it's rising up and threatening to overwhelm, where it seems thick, where it seems to dominate. But John makes this bold claim here that the light and life that Jesus offers cannot be overcome. It cannot be extinguished. It cannot be overtaken. It cannot be mastered. It can't even be grasped. The light that he brings cannot even be comprehended, really. This theme of light goes right throughout John's gospel. He keeps coming back to it. It appears in the letters that he wrote later on in the New Testament as well. He talks about light over 30 times in his writings. It's this recurring idea that punctuates every few chapters. We see it in John 8 where he stands up and says, I am the light of the world. Jesus says these words. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Jesus actually spoke these words in the temple in Jerusalem during the Feast of Tabernacles. The scholars believe that he was in a certain courtyard in the temple at this time. And during the Feast of the Tabernacles, in this particular courtyard, they had a ceremony that happened at the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles called a light ceremony. They constructed 4 23-metre tall candelabras, and they fueled those candelabras with oil, and they would be lit. And it was said that those 4 lights, vast lights, would light the whole of Jerusalem for the Feast of Tabernacles, and people would gather under them to celebrate and to dance and to play music. This is the backdrop that Jesus chooses to say, I am the light. Not just a temporary light that lights Jerusalem, but I am the light of the world. What an incredible thing that he said. What a beautiful illustration he gave those people. What wonderful words that hopefully warm your hearts and give you a little hope. But the great thing about Jesus is that he didn't just speak these words, he actually embodied them. The next time we see him say these words is in the next chapter, in John chapter 9. And this time he doesn't do it with a backdrop of lamps. He does it in front of a blind man. He sees a blind man who has been born blind. He's known darkness his whole life. He's probably heard about light, but not really experienced it. Perhaps a friend has tried to explain what light is, but he's never lived it. He's never seen it. I wonder what he thought when Jesus says these words, while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. I wonder what went through his mind when he heard those words. I wonder whether he heard those words with a bit of skepticism, like, yeah, you're the light of the world. Good luck trying to bring it to my life. Maybe he heard these words as empty platitudes. We don't know what was going through his mind, but we do know what Jesus did next. He crouched down in the dirt in front of this blind man and he spat into the dirt. And he took his finger and he mixed the saliva into the dust and he made mud. And he put the mud on his fingers and he stood up and placed the mud on the eyes of the blind man. And he says to the blind man, go to that pool and wash your face. And the story says that the blind man went and washed his face and he went home seeing. Jesus said, I am the light of the world, and then he introduced a blind man to light. What a beautiful gift of love he gave him. Can you imagine the moment when he washes the mud off his eyes and he takes his hands away and he begins to see something he's never seen before, light. At first just light and shade, it's all fuzzy. But then he grabs focus and he begins to see what light reveals. The dirt between his fingernails, the faces of the people he loved. What an incredible gift. I am the light of the world. It's not just a catchy sermon title. It's a lived reality for that man. Can you imagine the impact it had on the rest of his life? This, I think, is the invitation of Christmas. Light shining in the darkness. This is the invitation, I believe, that God wants to bring to us this Christmas and to our world this Christmas, a world living in deep darkness. He has an invitation of light. Jesus said these words one more time, and this time it's in John 12, a few chapters later, and he says, I have come into the world as a light, so that no one who believes in me should stay in darkness. Darkness is real. At times it can feel heavy. Sometimes it even feels like it's blinding us. But Jesus offers a radical alternative. That darkness doesn't have to be our home. We don't have to stay in it. Perhaps you are here tonight and you are feeling you're in a season of darkness. Maybe the glow of this season feels a little out of reach to you. All kinds of things can bring that darkness into our lives, and it does happen to us all. This year has been a year I've experienced it for myself. Sometimes it's brought to us by illness or death or fear or addiction or the actions of others. Whatever it is that has brought darkness into your life, my encouragement to you this evening is to turn to the one who says, I am the light of the world. Open yourself to him. Open yourself to the one who introduced a blind man to light. Open yourself to the one who stood up for those who were poor and marginalised, who lived in darkness imposed upon them by others, and he brought light into their life. Open yourself to the one who knows you and the darkness you face, and who seeks and wants with everything to give you light. And if you're in a season of light tonight, that's great. I've got an encouragement for you as well. And that is to listen to the words of Jesus in another gospel where he said to his followers, "You are the light of the world. Let your light shine." The invitation for us tonight is to experience the light he has for us, but also to reflect that light in the world, a world that desperately needs it. We're going to do something now to symbolise the coming of light into our world. Tonight we lit the Christ candle to symbolise Christ coming into our world. And now we're going to pass that light around. And hopefully the air conditioner won't blow it out. But as I light my candle, this symbolises the light that Jesus has brought into my life. And I've really valued that this year in particular. I'm going to share this light. Let's hopefully it don't go out. It won't go out. And as I pass the light, yes, has anyone else got one? This is to symbolise the light that we can pass on in this dark world.